Ever wondered what it takes to moderate a panel discussion like a pro? Hi everyone, welcome back to El-levate. I'm El-levate, and today I'm sharing my step-by-step guide to moderating panel discussions effectively. I've had the opportunity to be a panelist many times, and recently I moderated a panel during the 9th Ethio Health Exhibition Congress. It was an incredible experience and I learned so much along the way. And I'm going to walk you through the steps that I took in order to prepare. So depending on your situation, your job might be to moderate and also design the concept of the panel. In my experience, I had to do the design and also moderate the panel. So I'll give you a comprehensive guide, although doing both might not be advised, but hey, at least I'm making this video for you. So first is designing the panel, if that's something you have to do, and this is a very key part, and I consulted with colleagues to identify the right topics and panelists, and we wanted to ensure the discussion was relevant and engaging. So we asked our audience what they wanted to see, and based on their feedback, we selected experts who could bring unique perspectives to the table. So once we had a well-structured concept note, we refined it with input from the panelists, and this ensured that everyone was aligned on the goals and flow of the discussion. And myself, on the panelist, I also prepared on the topic well, although I was not required to speak on it in depth. I prepared in order so that I could have confidence, so that I could be confident enough to speak and I could be comfortable. And this part is very important so that you can be confident and you will not have any type of nervousness regarding the topic or any questions that might arise. Although it's not your job to answer them, but it's good to be prepared. So what we did next was we had an alignment call to dive deeper into the topics and ensure each panelist had a unique contribution. I could not stress this enough. An alignment meeting is very, very important. And as much as possible, you should tailor every question so that each panelist has a unique contribution. So after that, what I did was, after the alignment call, I also printed all the things I wanted to say in their order and had it on hand. Did everything go as planned? No, but at least I didn't run out of things to say, or I wasn't confused at any point. While I was looking for resources online, I came across George Durangu's moderator math. Who is George Durangu? He's a trained broadcaster and global moderator, and having worked with the BBC, CNBC, and Forbes Africa and interviewed numerous heads of state and thought leaders worldwide, he also has a class called George Hosts, which I plan to take very soon. And here's a golden framework I learned from moderator George Durangu. I'm still part of his mailing list, and that's how I came across this, and it helped me structure my timing perfectly. And most moderators want to prove themselves, so they assume a formal speaker's role on a subject they're not that familiar with, and end up completely ruining their credibility, because a moderator's main purpose, catch this, is not to appear knowledgeable, but to make sure information flows. And this is very important. When you prepare for the topic, you're not going to assume the role of a formal speaker. You just need to make sure that the information flows and to connect the relevant points and just make brief comments. That's it. During a panel discussion, timing is everything. I adapted this framework for our needs, making sure to allocate specific time slots for each speaker and included a buffer for Q&A, and in case the speaker went over time. And as I learned from George, as a moderator, your role is to guide the conversation, not dominate it. Keep your comments brief and insightful, and always connect one question to the other. And before you ask a question, you can say something that connects the panelists to the question. What makes that person relevant to this panel, and what has he or she done? For example, in my case, a panelist had written a book on the topic, had published papers, and I knew about those, and I prepared on that, and I said, like, Dr. X, you wrote this book, and can you tell us about this part? What's your comment on this? And you can ask more specific, tailored questions, and you can connect it with the work that they've done and what makes them relevant. And as much as possible, do things gracefully and be engaged yourself. When you're listening to their responses well, and when you have studied the topic beforehand, it shouldn't be too hard. You can even find points from their responses to the first question question to add up to the second question, and it can help you can connect dots like that. And, one time I had an experience to participate in a panel discussion, like I was a participant in an audience, and the moderator had an alarm, and when the time was up, she would ring that alarm, and it was loud, and participants complained. And this is why it's important to have alignment calls and do things gracefully as well, and try to your best to communicate with the panelists that their time is limited. And when you plan, you should prepare a few minutes for contingency. Also, it's recommended to have 2 rounds of discussion and then final remarks. Depending on the topic and the number of panelists you have, you can comfortably complete this in 90 minutes or less. And one of the biggest challenges during a panel discussion can be the audience questions. While I haven't faced this personally, I've seen it happen. Some audiences might not be too professional or might speak outside of the scope of the panel, and that might be they might be a little bit hostile, and they might just ask questions that are completely outside of the scope and might make comments that are just not relevant to the topic of the panel discussion and the objectives. The key is to handle it gracefully, acknowledge the question, redirect it if necessary, and keep the discussion on track. This tip is relevant both for the panelist and for the moderator. And as a moderator, sometimes it might be necessary to cut off, and your role is to guide the conversation and also ensure that things run smoothly. So I've had this experience. I've seen people ask this type of questions, and as I said first, I've also been a panelist on multiple occasions. And a tip for panelists is prepare for the worst, especially when you are the last speaker. Sometimes the first panelist might say something that you plan to discuss. To avoid this, first, if you're the moderator and if you're designing the panel, make sure that each panelist has a unique experience to share. A pre-panel meetup can help everyone align and ensure that the conversation runs smoothly. If you're a panelist and if you didn't have a moderator that briefed you beforehand, and if the other panelists say what you had planned to say, you just need to be flexible, and you need to have you need to come up with something there, and you need to be flexible, and you need to prepare for the worst, and try to be like an awake and an alert mind. Don't do panel discussions when you're tired or when you're exhausted. Just make sure you're alert so that you can just come up with your mind can be sharp. So what are your tips for moderating panel discussion? Share them in the comments below, and let's elevate our skills together. Thank you very much, and till I see you in my next video. Bye bye.